It's time for your Low Country real estate market update. It's the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. Brian is one of the top 1% real estate agents in Charleston. Find him online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-345-1273. Now, broadcasting from the WTMA studios, here's your host, Brian Beatty.
Good morning, Charleston. You're listening to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. Thanks for joining me this morning. I am your host, Brian Beatty. And if this is your first time tuning in, we talk all things real estate here on this program. Residential real estate is the name of the game. So over the next hour, we're going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff. And what I'm going to do this show is I'm going to focus a lot on ethics in real estate. I've had some stuff happen over the past week or so that I really thought would make for some good discussion. I want to get through a lot of material this hour. Let me just say this first. If you have a real estate question, comment, concern, you're thinking of buying or selling real estate, or you want to invest in real estate, I invite you to go to my website, which is the best way to contact me. Listingsincharleston.com is the website. And on there, you can take a look at everything I have for sale, everything I've sold. You can search the MLS, read some testimonials from past clients. And if you're thinking about selling your house, click on the Sell Your Home tab. You can learn more about my 59-day home sale guarantee at 4.5% commission. So that's listingsincharleston.com. So let me tell you what I want to talk about this hour. It's been a bit of a challenging week in real estate. I'll just be honest. We had some things happen this week to some of our clients that are just totally outside of our control. And so I thought I would talk about that this hour. That's what I'm going to spend the majority of this show on, is ethics in real estate, things that happen on a day-to-day basis in our industry and what to do about it. I want to just get these issues on the table so that you're aware of them. Sometimes real estate agents would prefer that you not know these kinds of things because it allows them to save face, and that sometimes it frankly allows an agent to act unethically and earn a commission and sweep issues under the rug and have it not be a problem. So I'm going to give you some specific examples throughout the show of ethical dilemmas that real estate agents face on a day-to-day basis and how to deal with them. So let me tell you what happened first. And this is a very touchy subject, and it's an awkward subject at times, but it's something that we as real estate agents need to talk about. Whenever we sit down with people, first of all, our goal, whether we're representing a buyer, seller, or investor, is to empower them with information, educate them on the real estate process, provide them with resources, interpret the market, and rely on our high level of experience to help you get the best price and terms possible on a real estate deal. And we make sure you're protected, and we're making sure that you're protected from misinformation. And we do all we can to make sure the transaction is a smooth and successful one. So when we sit down and we represent a buyer, we have a buyer consultation. We talk about the market. We talk about what to expect. We go over what you're interested in looking at. We also talk about the buyer agency agreement, the agreement that allows us to represent a buyer as their exclusive real estate agent. And in the buyer agency contract, as we're going through the real estate agent's duties to the buyer, and then the buyer's duties to the real estate agent. One of the things in that agreement that's very important, but that is very rarely talked about, is the sex offender registry. Here's what happened. We met with the buyer, first-time home buyers, young couple, young parents. We went through the process. We talked about what they're looking for in a new home. We talked about the areas that they're interested in. We talked about what it means to work with a real estate agent. We talked about the sex offender registry, and this is what the buyer agency agreement says. It says that real estate agents are protected by something called Megan's Law, that very simply states that if the sex offender registry and the information within it is important to you, the buyer, that it is your responsibility as a buyer to investigate those issues. It's our job, of course, to divulge any material defects that we might know about the house or pass on anything that we feel might be of importance to you from a condition standpoint. But when it comes to the sex offender registry or criminal information, there are just certain things that we cannot provide you with. So we had that discussion. We got the buyer agency agreement signed. We now represent this buyer. We go out, we start looking at properties, and this is my buyer agent representing these buyers. They look at about 3 dozen houses, and they finally find one that they love. It was the first day that the property hit the market, and they made an immediate offer. You know, they were very familiar with pricing in the area. They'd seen several homes. They had a great grasp on the market. And they said, okay, after leaving the showing, they said, all right, we're going to think about this for just a little bit. We're going to call you this afternoon. We're more than likely going to put in an offer. We just need to think some things through. Well, they call. They say, okay, let's make an offer. That offer takes about a day and a half to negotiate, and they get the house. How exciting. So here we are, first-time home buyers, young couple, young parents. They're moving into a house that fits all their needs. It checks all the boxes that they're looking for. And then what happens? Well, I think you know where this story is going. They check the sex offender registry. They go to the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, or SLED, and they look on their website, and they notice that there are 2 sex offenders that live on the same street. And it makes them very uncomfortable as young parents. So what we do is we contact the listing agent, and we say, hey, here's the deal. We've checked the sex offender registry. My clients are not comfortable moving forward. They don't want to buy this house. They love the house. It fits their needs, but it makes them very uncomfortable, and we don't want to be put in a position of having to buy something that is going to cause them this much anxiety and stress. So we are asking that you please let us out of this agreement. It's only been off the market for 2 days. Surely, if you sold it the first day it hit the market, you won't have a problem with selling it. It's well priced. I don't see any reason why any other buyer would not be interested in this property. Well, a day or two goes by, and then the listing agent comes back to us and they say, you know what? The sex offender registry and what's on it and how it affects this property is not a real contingency to the contract, because as you know, real estate agents are protected from divulging that information. We are not required to. And so it's not a contingency to the contract. So I'm sorry, but you need to move forward with the purchase of the home. Which, you know, obviously from the buyer's perspective, they're distraught. They're stressed out. They're incredibly upset. And so what happens now? It forces us to make some very, very, very difficult decisions. We have to now look at the contract and the way that we've written it, which we always do. We always build in some protection for our buyers in the event that things don't go the way that we want them to. That's part of what we do as real estate agents. We make sure that our clients are protected. But we also, there's only so much that we can do. So what we need to do now, because these sellers are essentially forcing us to buy the house, is, of course, we need to move forward with our home inspection. Well, that's going to be about a $350 expense that we're going to have to incur. And you better believe that once that home inspection occurs, we are going to put every single item that is found on that inspection report, and we're going to put it on a repair addendum, and we're going to say, if you don't fix every single thing on this list, then we have the right to walk away. And it's unfortunate that it has to get to that point. It really is, because these buyers don't want to buy this house. The sellers have a very sellable house, and they really wouldn't have any issue with selling it if they were to put it back on the market. So think about that for a minute. I mean, what would you do if you were the buyer? I think you would do anything you can to get out of the agreement. What would you do if you were the seller? Are you going to force this buyer, these young parents, to buy this house when they know that there are issues in the area with sex offenders? What's going to happen is this seller is going to have to bend to every single request that we have from this point forward, and they would probably be better off just putting it back on the market, because if they have to sell it to us, then we're going to want a house in perfect condition. And at the end of the day, it's not going to be within the seller's best interest, because we're going to nickel and dime them to death. We have to, because they're not letting us out of the contract. Now, I understand the listing agent's point of view. I really do. From his perspective and from the seller's perspective, again, they are not required to disclose issues like sex offenders. So it is the and this is the whole point of this segment. It is the responsibility of the buyer to investigate those issues, but more importantly, it is the responsibility of the real estate agent to tell the buyer that it is their responsibility. We gloss over so many issues as real estate agents and as an industry that a lot of these buyers are kind of flying blind throughout the home buying and home selling process. And as I mentioned earlier, information is power. We want to empower you with proper information so that you can make some good decisions in real estate. And it was just a very, very unfortunate set of circumstances, and we're still getting through the issue, and I think that we'll be able to work things out. So I think that there's going to be a happy ending to this story, but it's something worth mentioning. It's something that you as the public need to understand, and I'm happy to give you that information because sometimes real estate agents aren't. And that's the point here. So let me just give you some important information. If you want to check out the sex offender registry in South Carolina or anywhere for that matter, you can go to South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, which is SLED, which is www.sled.sc.gov, and that will give you all the information you want. You put in an address, it will show you a map of what's going on. And it's important that you arm yourself with the information before you make important decisions like buying or selling real estate. When we come back, we're going to continue our discussion in ethics in real estate. I have more examples, more things for you to think through. Again, if you'd like to contact me, if you have a real estate question, comment, concern, something you'd like to hear me talk about on the radio, or if you're thinking about buying, selling, or investing in real estate, give me a call, 843-345-1273, or go to my website, listingsincharleston.com, and you can learn more about working with me, my level of experience. And if you're thinking about selling your house, click on the Sell Your Home tab. You can learn more about my 59-day home sale guarantee at 4.5% commission. Again, that's Listings in Charleston, and this is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned for more of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. WTMA. Now, the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues on Charleston's Big Talker, 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back, Charleston, to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA. Thanks again for joining me this morning as we discuss all things real estate here in the Charleston area. If this is your first time tuning in, this is where we talk about all things residential real estate. I like to go over national, regional, local news, apply that to the low country so that if you're thinking about buying, selling, or investing in real estate here, you have some good information to go off of and you're an informed buyer, seller, or investor. Before I took a break, we were talking about something that's very sensitive, quite frankly, and it's the sex offender registry. And I was telling you that as real estate agents, it is our responsibility to help you understand what your responsibilities are. It's important for us as real estate agents to outline what our duties are as your broker and what your duties are as a buyer. And one of the things that is your responsibility as a buyer is to look up the sex offender registry. And again, it's a touchy subject. It's something that I've never talked about on the radio before, but we had an unfortunate situation happen where the buyer knew that. They did not check the sex offender registry. They made an offer on a house. Lo and behold, it's in an area with sex offenders. It makes them very uncomfortable as young parents. And now we need to work through a situation where we need to try and get them out of this house, out of this contract, and into something they feel more comfortable with. And so that's one example, but I'm going to take you through several more examples of ethical dilemmas in real estate and what we as real estate agents face on a day-to-day basis in our industry. And the more volume a particular real estate agent does, last year I did about 100 deals, the more opportunities there are for us to get busy and to not do our jobs as well as we possibly can. And I never, ever, ever want my clients to be in a position, and I never want myself to be in a position where I'm so busy that I'm not giving someone the full level of service. And I've built my career around good customer service and informing clients and educating them on the processes. And it's really important to me because I think that a lot of real estate agents kind of fail in that area, in the education area, in the customer service area. And so if you're thinking about doing something real estate related here in the Charleston area, I am a real estate agent. I've been in the top 1% of agents here since 2009. Would love to earn your business and at least have a discussion with you about how we can help you. So the best way to contact me is to call 843-345-1273, 843-345-1273. That's my cell phone. Or go to my website, listingsincharleston.com. All kinds of information on there for you to look through, including my 4.5% 59-day home sale guarantee, where I will sell your home in less than 2 months, or I'll sell it for half my commission. So again, the website for that, listingsincharleston.com. So let's continue this discussion about ethics in real estate and some of the issues that we as real estate agents are faced with on a day-to-day basis. You know, we're just talking about the sex offender registry and how, frankly, how awkward of a topic that is to discuss with people, but it's incredibly important, especially if it's important to them. But the same thing goes for, and this happens more often than you would think, quite honestly, but when we're out and we're showing property to prospective buyers, and they say, you know, Brian, what's the neighborhood like around here? You know, we don't want to be in a situation where we're moving into a neighborhood with a bunch of fill in the blank living around us. We're very comfortable in our own environment, and we don't want to be in an area where we feel unsafe or if we feel like there are fill in the blank types of people. So what's this neighborhood like? You know, do you have a good grasp on this neighborhood? We don't want to be in that kind of situation. And honestly, you would be surprised. I would say, gosh, I don't know, 30, 40% of buyers ask us this question whenever we're showing property. Racial questions about makeup of neighborhoods. And I just have to say, you know, I'm sorry, there are some things that I just can't comment on, and frankly, I don't have that information. It's not like we have books of neighborhoods with the racial makeup of each neighborhood. That information just isn't available to us. But if you're concerned about the safety of an area, the best thing you can do is just call the local police department. Ask them, have there been any issues in this neighborhood? Of what type were those issues, and what do I need to be concerned about if I'm a buyer looking in this area? And the police department, I think, will give you a very straightforward answer. But there's a question that real estate agents get asked all the time. And the appropriate response is what I just said. But the majority of the time, I'd be willing to bet, people will try to answer that question, even though they know they're not supposed to. And they'd get in big trouble if that buyer, let's say, was somebody that worked for LLR or the South Carolina Real Estate Commission. They were disguised as a buyer. You know, I think, honestly, if we had more people that were kind of like secret shoppers, if we had more people that were secret buyers that really worked for the South Carolina Real Estate Commission, you would hear a lot more about ethical issues in real estate. But from my perspective, we're a very lackadaisical state when it comes to slapping the wrist of people that aren't acting professionally and that are acting unethically. And that is something, quite honestly, that I would like to see our real estate commission do a better job of. And it might not even necessarily be the issue of the South Carolina Real Estate Commission. I think that real estate agents can do a better job of policing other real estate agents by bringing issues to other people's attention. So let me tell you, so here's another example. And I had this was from an email a while back from somebody that had clearly run into a situation that they were unhappy with. And they said this in their email. They said, Brian, I have reason to believe that the seller's agent was not truthful about the opposing bids for a property I was interested in. I'm suspicious that he made up bids to drive up the price I eventually offered. Do I have the right to demand proof of those opposing bids? Great question. I think a lot of buyers feel this way. Think about our market right now. We're in such a seller's market, and properties that may have been on and off the market for the past few years are being listed now, and they're selling in a matter of days. It's just where our market is right now. And so, obviously, if you're a buyer and you've taken time to research the history of a particular listing, and you notice that it was on the market in 2014 and it was on the market in 2013, and both times it didn't sell, but they list for the same exact listing price this year, and now you're interested in it, and boom, they've got multiple offers, I think anybody would be a little suspicious of that. So to answer this person's question, really the answer is no. An agent is not obligated to share with a buyer or with a buyer's agent other bids on the property. You as a buyer could potentially put into the contract that you want to see the other bid and respond accordingly. And maybe you put in there an escalation clause or something like that states that whatever the other buyer offers, you're going to offer $1,000 more, up to a certain price. That is not too uncommon. We don't see it much, but as our market has shifted, we've seen that more and more. So to answer the question, no, the real estate agent does not have to show you the other bids unless you put that in a contract, unless you put that in a counteroffer that you demand to see the other bids. But you got to understand that the seller's probably not going to be comfortable with that. The listing agent isn't going to be comfortable with it. And you run the risk of losing the property because of that demand. So it's very tough because how do you know that that listing agent is acting ethically? Sometimes we have to put the trust in people that we don't trust, and it makes this process very, very hard. All I think you can do from a buyer's standpoint when you're looking at properties that are in a multiple offer situation is rely on your real estate agent, your buyer agent, to tell you this is what this property is worth. It does not make sense for us to pay even a penny above this price. At this price, we are willing to walk away, and we are not going to go above it because that's the smart thing to do. That's what is going to make this a smart investment versus an emotional purchase. So to answer the question, no, they don't have to share those counteroffers with you. You hope that they're real, but most of the time you just don't know. We've got more examples. I'm going to get through several more of those as the show rolls on. You're listening to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. Again, go to my website, listingsincharleston.com, for more information on working with me as your potential real estate agent. Again, Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Have a real estate question? Ask Brian Beatty. Send him an email, lowcountryhomesales@gmail.com. That's lowcountryhomesales@gmail.com.
1250 WTMA.
Expert news and views on the Low Country real estate scene. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back, Charleston. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. Thanks again for joining me this morning as we talk all things real estate here on this program. If this is your first time tuning in, or if you're just joining us, we're talking about ethics this morning. Ethics in residential real estate, something that we as real estate agents experience on a day-to-day basis, but that you as the public might not necessarily know is going on behind the scenes. And so I want to bring that to the forefront this morning and share some of these ethical dilemmas with you, at least help you understand that they happen probably more often than you would think, and to be prepared for that. That is the purpose of this show, is to empower you with information and educate you on the processes and the market so that when it comes time to buy, sell, or invest in real estate, you are an informed buyer that knows what kind of questions to ask, that has a firm grasp on our market so that you can make some informed decisions. If there's anything I can do to help you, if you're thinking about hiring a real estate agent to help you buy or sell a house, please contact me through my website, listingsincharleston.com. And on that website, you can take a look at everything I have for sale, everything I've sold, search the MLS, look at every property for sale in the Charleston area. And if you're thinking about selling, click on the Sell Your Home tab, and you can learn about my 4.5% 59-day commission guarantee. It very simply states that I will sell your home in less than 2 months, or I'll sell it for half my commission. So listingsincharleston.com is the website for that. Let's continue our discussion about ethics in real estate and some of the issues that we as real estate agents face on a fairly common basis, and what the right thing is to do versus what most real estate agents typically do because it's the path of least resistance. So here's another example, and we've been through a few already. We talked about sex offenders. We talked about multiple offers and whether or not a listing agent is pretending that other offers exist to try and drive up a price. But here's another one. And I got this email a while ago, and I've kind of been saving it for the right time to discuss this on my program. But I had someone email me that said, I decided to list my house with an agent with the understanding that if one of two of my friends who were interested in my house decided to buy it, that the listing agent would only be compensated 3%. Well, one of my friends ended up making an offer on the property, and when my listing agent sent me a breakdown of my expenses, she included her commission at 6%. So I said, hey, the explanation that was given to me was that if one of my friends ended up purchasing this home, that I would only be charged the 3% commission. Well, her explanation is that the original deal was only good until she listed the house in the MLS. So in other words, the verbal agreement that they had became null and void as soon as the real estate agent started marketing the property in the MLS. Is this ethical? Is this legal? So let's think about this for a second. The listing agent knew that one or two of the seller's friends was interested in buying the house. The listing agent agreed to a 3% commission if they decided to purchase the home. What the listing agent neglected to mention, very conveniently for the listing agent, was that once the property went in the MLS and once that seller signed a listing agreement, if that was not an exclusion to the listing agreement, then it would be very difficult for it to be enforced. So let me say that again. This seller and this listing agent should have put in the listing agreement that if one of these two people purchased the home, that the commission would be reduced from 6% to 3%. The listing agent knew not to put it in the agreement. They did not put it in the agreement. And then when it actually came to fruition, she expects a full 6%. And I can just imagine the listing agent saying, well, I've marketed your home and I've done this, that, and the other, and I've incurred expenses and it wasn't in the listing agreement and I deserve the full 6% because I'm going to end up having to represent the buyer in some form or fashion anyways. Well, the problem, of course, with this is that, number one, the listing agent appears to be incredibly unethical. Number two, the listing agent appears to be incompetent for not including that in the listing agreement. Either she knew what she was doing or she didn't know what she was doing. Either way, it affects the seller. And so now the seller is working with this real estate agent that she can't possibly trust because they had an agreement and that agent is not honoring that agreement. So what does the seller do? How do they get out of this mess? Well, if I were the seller, what I would do is I would call the broker in charge of that real estate company. I would say, here's the deal. I had an agreement with your agent that if one of my friends purchased my home and they knew this, that I would only be charged the 3% commission, but she is trying to charge me 6%. She knows what she's doing. She knows that she's only supposed to be getting 3%, but it's not in my listing agreement. So I'm asking for your help as the broker in charge to go through this issue with the agent and if at all possible to correct this problem. And most of the time, broker in charge of real estate company in said area, they want to protect the public. They want to make sure that they're doing the right thing. It's their responsibility to police the agents in their office and to hold them accountable for their actions. Now, you have to determine which route to go in that obviously you have contractually one thing, but then verbally you have something else. So what's the right thing to do? Well, obviously the right thing to do if you're a listing agent is to not strong arm this seller because of the agreement that you have in writing, and you should honor your word, right? Sounds pretty reasonable. I would hope that this real estate agent and this seller got through this issue and that everything was okay, because that's incredibly unethical of the real estate agent to do. And any real estate agent that goes in and agrees to something like that is probably thinking to themselves, okay, sure, yeah, I'll tell the seller what they want to hear, because a lot of sellers think that they're going to have friends or family, they're going to buy their house, and it never happens. So I'm just going to agree to, I'll just say whatever. Sure, yeah, if they buy it, great, I'll give you a 3% commission. That she probably didn't think that there was any chance of this buyer purchasing this home, and it happened. And rather than do the right thing, rather than be a professional and say, you know what, I said that, I'm going to honor my commitments, she's relying on the contract and the seller's lack of knowledge when it comes to writing contracts to try and take advantage of a situation. Not cool, not good. So we're talking about ethical dilemmas here in real estate. If you're just joining us, and we're a little more than halfway through our show here, and we've talked about a lot so far this morning. And what I want to say before I get into this next example is that if you have something of concern, if you have questions that you want answered, if you have just anything at all about the real estate process that you want more information on, I am happy to have a discussion with you, sit down, have some coffee and go through it, shoot you an email, whatever the case might be. I just want to make sure that as I continue to do this program and as I continue to sell real estate in the Charleston area, that I am of value to my listeners and to the general public. So no cost, no obligation. If you have questions, as long as I can answer them, I will. And if I can't, then I'll point you in the right direction. But that is a big deal to me, and I just want to make sure that you, the listener, are protected and that you have the knowledge necessary to not get taken advantage of. Because unfortunately, it happens more often than I care to admit in this industry. I'm not saying that I'm responsible or I'm directly related. I just, as somebody that does a lot of deals, I'm involved in all kinds of real estate transactions, and I hear things, and I hear people talk about things that kind of make me cringe. So anyways, here's another example. And this is an interesting example because if you're a for sale by owner, you really do have kind of the deck stacked against you in many cases. So let me get through this dilemma. Let me get through this example. So let's say that a real estate agent represents a client and he's self-employed. He's a contractor, and it's very difficult for him to get a mortgage because he's self-employed. He's on 1099 income. I won't get into too much of that, but it's his first house. He's saved up just enough money for a down payment. Anything that he needs or anything he wants to buy, he's going to need to have the sellers pay his closing costs. He has just enough money for a down payment. So a house lists, and it's exactly what he's looking for. It fits his price range. He makes an offer. He asks the seller to pay his closing costs. And while they're negotiating back and forth, a second offer comes in. So now this buyer's in a multiple offer situation on a house that they're very much interested in, but the other buyer doesn't need closing costs paid. So unfortunately, the buyer loses out on that deal. Sad story. It's not the end. Let's say that the real estate agent is then leaving the property and they notice that a for sale by owner lists. So they drive by the for sale by owner, they talk to the for sale by owner. It's the exact same price range, and it seems to be everything that this buyer could be interested in. But when the agent asks the seller, are you paying a real estate commission to a buyer agent if they bring you a buyer? The seller says no. Well, knowing what the realtor knows, he knows that the buyer can't afford a down payment and also pay for the real estate agent's commission, because that's the only way at this point that the agent would receive compensation. So what does he do? Possible things to think about. Does he just forget about the for sale by owner and keep searching on the MLS until something comes up for his buyer? Does he tell his buyer about the for sale by owner, but he doesn't show it to him unless the buyer comes up with a way to pay his commission? Does he arrange for the buyer to go and meet the for sale by owner and help them work out a contract? Does he convince the for sale by owner to raise the price enough to include the commission out of the seller's proceeds? Let's say that the agent finds out that the property is in foreclosure. It's going to be foreclosed soon. Does he wait for the house to get foreclosed and then try to get the listing from the bank and sell it to his buyer? Or does he try to buy the house and then sell it to his buyer? There's all kind of situations here. What do you think is the right thing to do? I can tell you what I think the right thing to do is. I think the right thing to do is to put the buyer in touch with the for sale by owner, have both parties understand that as the real estate agent, as the person that represents the client, you deserve a commission and that you want to try and get that worked out. If you can't get it worked out, I firmly believe that it is my job as a buyer agent to protect my client and their best interests, and I will not negotiate my commission at the expense of my client losing a house that they're really interested in. And I can tell you, I did this with my best friend. My best friend was looking for a house. We were having trouble finding what he was looking for. He found a for sale by owner. The for sale by owner was not paying a buyer agent commission. I said, hey man, I'll help you out. Let's get together. Let's look at the contract. Let's make sure that everything is ironclad. But just do me a favor and refer me to some other people. I don't need a commission on this one. Let's just make sure you get the house and you love it. And that's what a lot of real estate agents, I think, aren't thinking about. They're thinking about the commission first and their client second. Not all real estate agents are that way, but I'm telling you, it happens. So I'm telling you these stories this morning to make sure that you're prepared in the event you work with a real estate agent and you're put into one of these situations. You just need to understand how to navigate it and what questions to ask and what's right. What's right. So I'm going to take another break. When we come back, I'm going to talk a little bit more about ethical dilemmas in real estate. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. Again, go to my website, listingsincharleston.com, or call me personally at 843-345-1273. Take a break. I'll be right back.
Visit Brian Beatty's website at listingsincharleston.com. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues next on The Big Talker, 1250 WTMA.
WTMA.
Now, here's more of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on The Big Talker, 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back, Charleston. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. Thanks again for joining me this morning. I always want to take a little bit of time just to say thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate you listening, and I appreciate those of you that have reached out to me that have said, Brian, I need to sell my house, or we're thinking about buying and investing in real estate, and very thankful to have such great clients and to have the opportunity really to just share information and experiences with you as someone that's been doing this for almost 10 years and that has been in the top 1% of the market since 2009. So thank you very much for tuning in and for listening. We're talking about ethics in real estate this morning and how important this is. We've been through several examples, from sex offender registry to multiple offers to for sale by owners, and the dilemmas that sometimes real estate agents face in terms of doing what's right and doing what's right for the real estate agent. We get put in that position more often than you would think. And it's always been my mentality in that you serve your client and their best interests regardless of whether you earn a commission or not. It has to be that way. If it's not that way, that's why people have such a negative outlook on real estate agents and the real estate industry in general, is that we are self-centered. We're only concerned about the commission. And there are some good real estate agents out there, by the way. I would hope that my clients feel I am one of them because I work very hard to make sure that I am. So if there's anything I can do for you, you're thinking about buying, selling, investing in real estate, feel free to give me a call. I can be reached at 843-345-1273 or by going to my website, listingsincharleston.com. One final example of ethics in real estate. So, you've decided that you want to sell your house, and you've got a fairly good idea of what it's worth. And being an intelligent and well-informed home seller, you decide to interview 3 different local listing agents who have been selling homes in your area and marketing to you for years. They send you flyers, you see their signs around, you know they do business in the area. And so each realtor comes by and they walk through your house and they give you their marketing presentation and they go over the CMA, or the comparative market analysis, and they help you determine what they think is a good selling price for your home. And shockingly, the first 2 real estate agents come in with prices that are just a little lower than what you expected. And although they have good recommendations and they can analyze the data and they can support their position on the price, you remain convinced that your house is worth more money. Happens all the time, right? Sellers think their homes are worth more than they actually are. And that's just the fact of the matter. That's just truth. The majority of the time, sellers think their homes are worth more than they actually are. And that's okay. I'm not saying that sellers are wrong or that's bad. It is what it is. So you as the seller are a little disappointed in the first 2 real estate agents and in the number that they've said they can sell your house for. So when you interview the 3rd agent, you share your frustrations with that agent. And you're asking yourself, how could these agents that are selling in my area not understand that my home is worth more money? Do they have my best interests in mind? Are they just after a quick sale, or do they really think that it's only worth that much money? And of course, hearing this, the 3rd real estate agent, who's the last one to show up, he's going to more than likely give you an analysis that mirrors what your intentions are with the property, which is a higher price. At that point, you as the seller become excited that somebody finally agrees with your opinion of value, and you start, counting the money in your head of all the things that are going to happen once the property sells at this price. And so obviously, if you're like most people, you're going to pick realtor number 3. It's the agent who's willing to listen to your input and work with you, and they have the mentality of, hey, if it doesn't work, then we'll just reduce the price, right? There's no harm in that. There's nothing wrong with that. Well, here's the truth. The truth is that you may have just met a real estate agent that is doing something called buying your listing. Okay? He's buying the listing by suggesting you might be able to get a higher sales price than what other agents recommended, and most likely that real estate agent knows that your home will sell for less money. And it's his intention from the beginning to get you to lower your price. And so why would a real estate agent do that? Why would a real estate agent go in and suggest a higher price to a seller when they know it's not going to sell for that? Well, number one, sometimes agents care more about having a sign in the yard and the marketing opportunity associated with your home than they do in actually selling it. Big shocker. Number two, the more signs real estate agents have in the yard, the more leads they're getting. The more buyers are contacting them. And if they can't sell your listing, well, then maybe they can sell a house to a buyer that contacted them after marketing your home. So for them, as the listing agent, it doesn't necessarily matter all that much that your home is way overpriced. They're going to get calls from it from buyers anyways, and at least they can hopefully sell a buyer a listing and replace the transaction, if that makes sense. They can sell a buyer a house without having to sell your house and make the same amount of money. They're just leveraging their listings to get buyer business. So those are three things that could very easily happen. It could also be that they're just not confident enough in their own pricing to actually tell you what the price should be. And so this is always a red flag when I go and I interview with sellers and they say, well, we had one agent that said this and we had one agent that said this. I had a classic example of listing a waterfront condo last year in downtown Charleston on Sanssouci Street. It was a beautiful condo. It was the nicest in the development, and there really wasn't anything else like it. And the seller ended up working with me because of my approach to pricing her home. I said, all right, well, if we're going to spend this amount of money as a buyer, what are we going to be looking at? What are our comparable properties? Because there were no sales comps. There was nothing else that sold that was like it. So we had to approach it from a different point of view. But the other two agents she interviewed were all over the place in pricing. One was like $185,000. The other was like, I'm not kidding, guys, it was $185,000, and then the top was like $450,000. How do you more than double the price of a condo and call yourself a professional? It just blows my mind sometimes. And so, of course, the seller was very confused. And the point in telling you that story is that if you're a seller and you're going through market data with that agent and they don't have a firm grasp on the data they're presenting, if they don't understand trends within your market, if they can't comp out your house by determining the value added by the things that you have done to your home, the upgrades you have within it, the condition of the property, as compared to other recently sold homes, then that's probably not the right real estate agent for you. So the last thing that I would want as a listing agent is to go in and set this expectation that we're going to sell your home for more money, knowing full well that I can't and that the market doesn't support it, get you excited, put you through the process of going through all these showings, keeping your house clean, communicating with me, doing all the stuff that it takes to market homes for sale, when really all we're doing is spinning our wheels because the price we're asking is just off the mark. And any buyer or any agent that's going to get excited about your property is going to do their homework. And if the homework doesn't justify the price you're asking, then it's really all for naught. It's all for nothing. So I try to prevent those types of situations by being a professional and telling people what I think their home is truly worth based on my level of experience and my ability to interpret a market and analyze it and tell you what I think your home will really sell for. It's all about setting realistic expectations and meeting your goals. It's not about me selling your home in a certain amount of time to maintain my goals. It's about accomplishing your goals and whether or not those are reasonable. So I hope you've enjoyed this hour where we've talked about all things ethics in real estate. If you have questions for me, give me a call, 843-345-1273, or go to my website, listingsincharleston.com. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. Thank you so much for tuning in, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Join us for another edition of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show next Saturday morning from 8 till 9. Contact Brian Beatty online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-345-1273. 843-345-1273.